Hey everybody, it's Stef Mischuk with KillerSites.com. So you won't get rich building an iOS app. That's the title of the vlog. So like everything else that you hear, you should look for some data. You should look for some evidence to back any statement that you hear on or off of the interwebs. So here's an article from Gawker.com, and this just supports my assertion, as the nerds would say. This supports what I'm saying. Essentially, there are so many apps. I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, the shortened version of what's going on here. There are so many apps now in the App Store, well over 1 million. And there's so many apps being submitted, new apps being submitted to the App Store every month. And that's just the iOS App Store. That's just the Apple App Store. That the chances of you making any money with your app is highly unlikely for a few reasons. Number one, there's so many apps out there. Like, what are the chances that your app is going to be seen by other people? You know, let's be realistic. There's 1 million plus out there, and there's 11,000 new ones coming in, more than 11,000 every month. Number two, a lot of these apps are free. The companies will write them for free, and they're hoping to get you later on with, in-app upgrades and so on. So you have to expect that even if your app gets a little traction, meaning people start looking at it, you have to expect that it may take time for it to be any monetization. So if you're building apps, you have for the iOS store, and I'm sure it's even worse for the Android store, you're going to have to expect that you're going to need to have a lot of money in the bank or have time to devote to promoting your app before you make any money. So this is a long-term thing. The days of putting an app out there and making sales quick and so on, if it was ever there, it's not there anymore. So keep that in mind. This is really interesting. Now, I'm on Windows right now recording this screencast, and you see I'm on Statista. If I want to view the data on this chart, I have to become a premium member on Windows, which is interesting. Now, before I get to this, well, actually, we'll just get to it. But on my Mac, I took a screenshot of the exact same site with my Mac. So for whatever reasons, Statista does not block the charts on the Mac, but it blocks it on Windows. I have no clue why. That's just, a little interesting thing I've never seen before. But here's some statistics up until 2014. In black is the number of games. And in blue is the applications. So you see there's a lot. Like, this is the 40K mark. So it says right here in June 2014, a total number of 11,752 new games and applications were submitted to the Apple iTunes Store. I'm not sure what the percentage of acceptance is, but I imagine it's relatively high since people are spending their time writing these apps and so on. I haven't bothered trying to look at the acceptance rates. The main thing, though, is that there's a lot of apps being submitted all the time, and you got already 1 million plus on the store to contend with. So this is a market that's very difficult to get into. I call it a chickens market. What do we mean by chickens? Well, chickens are a commodity. That means that you got Joe the butcher down the street selling chickens, the other store selling chickens, this guy selling chickens. Unless you got some really special chickens, the chances of you selling your chickens is going to be difficult unless you're a real good salesman, or again, you got really good chickens. So the same thing with apps now in the iOS store. There's so many apps and so many free apps. First of all, they got to find your app. Second of all, they got to be willing to pay for it, given there's so many free apps that count on the freemium model later on. The freemium model is the models that you get the free one, and eventually you might pay to get some upgrades or so on. Anyway, just a word of warning to you budding developers out there. Just because you can write an iOS app, it doesn't mean you're going to make any money with the app. And the chances are you won't. It's a lottery ticket these days. That's pretty clear to people who have sober minds. That all said, it's not too depressing in terms of iOS development in general, because there are still a lot of people out there who may need, well, I don't know if it's a lot, but there are a certain amount of businesses and people out there who may need an iOS app for some app they're developing for their own internal purposes. So you may have a restaurant who wants to develop an iOS app for order taking, or who knows. So learning to develop in iOS could have some benefits in terms of you developing apps for other people. And still to this day, there's still buzz. Last time I checked, I'm recording this in mid 2015. There's still buzz. There's probably good work for iOS developers, high paid jobs for iOS developers. That said, I'm still a big advocate of people providing turnkey web development services. And when I'm talking about web development services, I'm talking about getting into beyond just basic site building and coding. Anyway, I'll have to leave that to another video. It's already 6 minutes in here, so that's too long already. So we'll talk soon.